Hey YouTube, I want to make a video talking about my top 50 favorite anime and manga. So some rules for this. I'm going to be excluding movies because I feel like they'll be hard to compare to the long-running anime shows and manga series. Maybe I'll do movies another time. And then anime and manga are going to be eligible because I mostly watch anime, but there's also been quite a few manga I've read that I really enjoyed that I want to include. And I figure that I watch anime and then I sometimes read the manga after I finish an anime or to catch up. With that in mind, I might as well include manga themselves that I read, even if they never got an anime adaptation. And I'm just going to be taking all my favorites and then ranking the top 50. Starting at number 50, Dragon Ball Z. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Why is such a legendary anime at number 50? Why isn't it like number five or something? And then other people are like, yo, why is Dragon Ball Z, this lame shonen anime, even on the list? Well, you know what? Putting all those opinions aside, me personally, I enjoy Dragon Ball Z. Now, I'll let you know that I didn't grow up with Dragon Ball Z. I watched it later in my teen years, and I've watched about 40 episodes of Dragon Ball Z. Haven't seen Dragon Ball yet, aside from a few episodes, sadly, and I haven't finished all of Dragon Ball Z. But that being said, from the episodes I've seen, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really awesome, very epic, very colorful, just really fun anime. A lot of great characters in there. Maybe a little repetitive, but at least from the parts I watched, I really enjoyed. One part in particular, I just thought it was such an epic culmination when it gets to the arc about Vegeta and I think the bald guy's Napu or something. I don't know what his name is, but when those two show up, and then you have like all of Earth's greatest fighters taking these guys on, they can't even beat the second in command Napu. I don't know. Is that his name? Maybe it's something else. They can't even beat the second in command guy. And like all these fighters, it was just such an intense battle. And then you got Goku, who's like in the other world trying to get the Dragon Balls or whatever, so he can come back to life. And I just thought it was such a cool and memorable storyline. And then Goku comes back and then he finally beats him and beats Vegeta, and that was all pretty awesome. And someday maybe I'll watch more. I've heard some very good things about later parts of the Dragon Ball series, like stuff about Cell and Frieza. So maybe someday. At number 49, Taishou Otome Otagi Banashi. I hope I pronounced that right. It's a manga series. This is a romance manga, and I really enjoyed it. I think that generally, I don't always like romance anime and romance manga. There's some tropes I don't like, some certain things in the story, but I really like this one because it's a romance. It's a nice relationship that it portrays, so it does a lot of things right. So one thing I enjoy is that I feel like it has a nice amount of drama and seriousness to it, along with the romance, but it's not drama that gets in the way of the romance in a way that's annoying or just kind of in a way that's not realistic or stuff like that. I think it's good drama, and the romance itself is very nice, very sweet. And another thing I like is that this whole series, I think, is like 40 chapters. I like that because sometimes there's romance where I'm like, I'm interested in this, but they just drag it out so long. There's hardly any progression. This one's cool because like the couple gets together like pretty quick. It's actually an arranged marriage. Maybe that's a played out trope for some people, but I think that the way the story is done, it shows these two characters getting to know each other better and falling in love through the arranged marriage, and I think it's a very nice manga. So that takes the number 49 spot. At number 48, we have Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail is a pretty cool action shonen anime. I enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. I think they're similar to Dragon Ball Z. There are a lot of other shonen that do it even better, and you'll see they rank higher on the list. But that being said, I think Fairy Tail is a very fair adversary to like the main three, like the big three shonen that came out. I think Fairy Tail came out after those, and it was a very solid kind of addition to the shonen genre. It does all the things pretty well, but nothing too much to make it like amazing. But I think it's really good, and that's why it makes the my personal top 50. Really enjoy the characters, cool fights. I like the Fairy Tail Guild. Really, there's no major complaints to say about this. I watched, I think, the first 50 episodes, and I really enjoyed it. It's just didn't really give me the urge to like watch all whatever 200 episodes there are. But that being said, 50 episodes that's still a lot of episodes. That's like way more episodes than most anime that I've seen. So I definitely got a nice big chunk of Fairy Tail, and it's a very memorable anime that is gonna stay with me as one of my favorites. At number 47, a manga series called Anjo-san. I really enjoy this manga. This is kind of in this, I don't know if it'd be called a recent trend, but kind of this recently kind of, I guess, growing trend of these romances, or you have one character who's teasing the other character. I guess that's what it would be. Of all those, there have been some that I enjoyed, but I think this is actually my favorite from that kind of subgenre. I really enjoy Anjo-san. I like the main two characters. Um, this is kind of my bias in some ways with romance manga, but I like how it mainly focuses on these two characters for this manga, and it doesn't like kind of branch off and show all these other characters. I kind of prefer that for romance. I like if we have a main romance, a main couple, I kind of like to just focus on them and their relationship and their dynamic. So I really enjoy this one. A nice romance manga. At number 46, Classroom of the Elite. This anime is just really cool and really entertaining. It's about this school, if my memory serves me right, where you have these students that are kind of like in this little school society where they compete with each other. It's a short anime. I think it's 12 episodes, and there's like a light novel for it that's probably has a way more extensive story. But just from these 12 episodes, I really enjoyed it. I liked the characters were good. I really just liked just kind of the feel and kind of the general story. I just think it was pretty entertaining for the most part. And I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but the main character is actually super interesting the more you learn about him. And it kind of like, whoa, you kind of get some very surprising kind of revelations. And I really enjoyed this anime. Number 45, we have Blue Exorcist. Now, this is an anime that is kind of hard for me to rank because it's one of those anime I saw early on. I think in like 2012 or something, I watched this or somewhere around there, and I remember loving it. Um, but now I've just seen so many anime since then, and I haven't really revisited Blue Exorcist. So in memory, it just doesn't. I liked it, I enjoyed it, but I feel like it's just kind of bland compared to a lot of the other anime ranking higher. So it's not ranking too high, but I did really enjoy it, and at the time that I watched it, I thought that it was really awesome. I really liked the main character. I thought it was super interesting that he was the son of Satan, and yet obviously he's trying to be a good dude, and he's kind of getting all this prejudice towards him because of that. And I thought that was really cool. And I really just the vibe and like the aesthetic of this anime. It just looks really cool. I remember going to Barnes and Nobles, seeing the manga section and seeing this thing called Blue Exorcist and just the art with the blue flames and the dudes dressed with their fancy clothes and their swords. I thought it looked really cool. So yeah, really cool anime. I don't know if I'll ever continue because I remember I tried the second season when that finally came out. And it just didn't really grip me, but I enjoyed the first 25 episodes. At number 44, Kaguya-sama Love is War. This is a romance comedy anime about two characters trying to get the other one to confess with this idea that the one who confesses is the lesser and the submissive person, I guess, in the relationship. And both of them are very smart and very kind of well established people that think, hey, I'm gonna be the one like running this world, so I need to win and I need to make the other person admit they love me. And I think it's a pretty fun series. It's kind of like everyone always compares it to like a romance Death Note kind of thing going on. It's like this psychological battle, and I really enjoy this one. Um, I think the main romance is really good. Over time, it might kind of start to get less interesting once the romance fully wraps up. But that being said, I've enjoyed it very much, and it's funny, it's entertaining, has a nice romance, and yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites. At number 43, I'm gonna try to pronounce this right. I think it's called Do Chakyu Kareshi X Kanojo. I have no idea what's going on with that title. This is another rom-com. This is kind of crazy. There's like a lot of romance I feel like so far on this list. I mean, I guess I like romance, but you're gonna see later on there's my my top favorites are gonna be a lot of other genres. But that being said, in the rom-com genre, I feel like this one is amazing. Oh my gosh. If anyone's ever read this thing, it's a pretty recent series. It's hilarious. I was actually debating whether I should put this on the list because it kind of falls into this. It almost falls into this category of like ecchi manga. This one's a manga, by the way. It doesn't have an anime yet, and I don't really like ecchi manga or ecchi anime, but um, but this one is a lot more than that. Like when I really thought about it, I'm like, yeah, it's a little ecchi, but like it's a really funny manga. It's a really nice romance, and actually, there's a lot of I think a lot of heartwarming value to this manga. It shows, it's a romance, it's a little risque, but it actually does like if anyone's read this, there's actually like an arc for the characters where it gets a little dramatic at a certain point where they actually teach both of them like, hey, take this relationship seriously, you know. It's not all just about like the sex and stuff like that. So I thought that was a good development for them and a surprisingly great development for again like an etchy kind of rom com that you think oh this is just kind of surface level. There's not much more this is adding. But yeah, I really enjoyable manga and I just every new chapter that comes out I'm always excited to read the new chapter. Number 42, an anime called Time of Eve. So this is a very unique anime, just a very unique experience. There are not many other anime I've seen like this. So I guess you could kind of say this is a sci-fi anime, although it's to me it definitely is a sci-fi, but the genre is very realistic and down to earth, and it almost just feels like a regular slice of life anime. But even then, it's like a dramatic slice of life anime, and I just think that's really interesting about it. I would almost compare it to Mushishi maybe with its tone. But yeah, I just think this is a really great anime. Um, just really just interesting, such an interesting experience watching this anime. It's almost hard to describe, so I'm kind of failing at describing it. But yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the emotions it gave me. I really enjoyed just the kind of the calming nature of watching it and kind of exploring this future society where you have humans, you have these android robots, and what is the humanity of these robots? It's kind of like what this anime is exploring. Number 41, an anime called Haikyuu. This is a very cool sports anime about volleyball. And I'm a volleyball player myself, so I really enjoyed seeing, volleyball in anime. I just think it was really cool. I've actually only seen the first season, so 25 episodes. I'm definitely going to be watching more. I just haven't got around to continuing this series. I kind of like to watch different things. I don't always just marathon a whole series at once. Um, but yeah, I seen the first season, and it's a great anime. I really like the characters, like, and it's just man, it's just so good at everything it's doing. The volleyball scenes are awesome. The characters are awesome. The It gets you hyped up. It's well animated, cool music. It's just the whole experience is very fun. And yeah, it's just kind of about this volleyball team, and you get the dynamic between the team and all the characters. And I'm really looking forward to see where this team goes in the future. Number 40, Carolyn Tuesday. This is an anime about two girls who want to become professional musicians, and I really enjoyed it. It kind of has this sci-fi setting, which is cool, and takes place in the future on Mars. And I think it's just a very fun and enjoyable experience. The plot is pretty interesting, that kept me invested all the way through, and I liked the characters, and I liked just the whole vibe of the show. A very good anime. Number 39, Boarding School Juliet. This is a romance comedy anime, kind of playing off the story of Romeo and Juliet, where you have these two factions of high schools, I suppose, and the two main characters, who are kind of like two heads of each of the schools, are secretly in love. So I think it's a pretty funny anime. It's a very nice romance in there, and I really enjoyed it all the way through. This is one of those anime where it genuinely makes me laugh, which I feel like doesn't happen too often sometimes with anime. So I enjoyed that, and the main romance is great. I love their relationship and how they're both how they fall in love, even though they're both from very different places where they're supposed to hate each other, I guess. So it's a good anime. Number 38, Real Life. This is an anime about like a 28-year-old male who is kind of failing in life. So then, under this weird circumstance, he's sent back to relive high school and to try to figure himself out so he doesn't end up how he ends up. And I really enjoy this one. It has some nice romance in there, some nice comedy, and also just a very, I think, cool and inspiring story. I think the drama is very well done, and all the characters are well developed. I was very impressed. You know, it kind of has this cast where you usually expect some of the side characters maybe not be as interesting or as well developed, but I thought this one does a great job with all of the characters, even though it's a pretty short anime. I think it was 16 episodes total, but it was a great anime, and it's cool to have a short anime that has a nice, I guess, complete feeling. So I really enjoyed Real Life. Number 37, The Rose of Versailles. This is a historical anime retelling the story of the French Revolution. It mainly focuses on Marie Antoinette and her bodyguard and a few other characters. The main character is really her guard named Oscar, and this is a great anime. I think it is really interesting, and it kind of tells a very social and political oriented story, and it has a relatively serious tone. And man, it's just quite an experience. I would say, especially the last 10 episodes. The whole anime is about 40 episodes. The last 10 episodes is just a stretch of some of the best anime I've ever seen. Really a fantastic story. Number 36, Astra Lost in Space. This is a sci-fi thriller anime, and it's truly one of the most thrilling stories I've ever experienced in anime. So this is a story where a bunch of teenagers have to go on this quest to go find a new planet, and it takes place way in the future. And let's just say this quest ends up going wrong, and throughout the rest of the story, there are so many revelations. My goodness, I just love this anime. I think there's some amazing plot twists, and they're actually explained pretty well considering how crazy the revelations are. So I think it's a well done anime. I enjoyed the cast pretty well. It has some heart in the story, and I think it's just a very nice package of an anime. It's about 12 or 13 episodes. Number 35, Steins Gate. This is another thriller anime, but it kind of deals with time travel. I think this anime is very entertaining, very interesting. I enjoy the story a lot. It has a nice build up and a very awesome conclusion. I think this is one of the classics of anime, and it's one of my favorites. The main two characters, Okabe and Kurisu, are also some of my favorite characters in anime. Number 34 is Clannad. This is an anime that hit me harder than I was expecting. It really didn't seem like an anime that I would enjoy, but I ended up enjoying it a lot. Now, I've only seen Clannad at the moment. I actually watched it pretty recently out of all the anime on this list a few months ago in the late 2020. I do plan on watching After Story, so if this is rated this high already and After Story is even greater from what I've heard, I wouldn't be surprised if it ranks even higher. We'll see. I really liked the main characters, the romance, and overall, it just has this feeling that it's a classic high school anime. I feel like of all those kind of anime that kind of blend together. In my opinion, I think Clannad does it the best from what I've experienced. Number 33, Attack on Titan. What can I say? It's Attack on Titan. It's an awesome anime and one of the most iconic stories in all of anime. This is a really a great horror and just kind of whole societal kind of anime about these characters who are inside these walls and they're being attacked and by all these giant titans, and it's a simple concept, and yet the anime there's a lot to it, so I really enjoy it. I remember watching this back in 2013 and really getting into it and being like, man, this is what modern anime is, and the animation's amazing, by the way. And currently I'm actually in season 3 right now. I'm kind of behind, so I'm looking forward to catching up to what the even greater and seasons are. Apparently, I've heard a lot of great things on the later parts as well, so I'm excited for that. I'm really enjoying season 3 so far, though, how it's kind of delving more into the human on human conflicts. I think that's a really interesting twist since it's always been human on Titan in the earlier seasons. Crazy to think at the time of recording this that Attack on Titan is going to be coming to an end soon in April of 2021. At least the manga is, and then the anime will follow. What a time to be alive. Number 32, Technolize. This is one of the hardest animes for me to rank here because it's the one I most recently finished. I'm watching it and I just finished it and I think it's fantastic. I don't know if in the future if it could rank higher or lower depending on just how time progresses, but right now I love this anime. I think it's very amazing art and the story is actually really intriguing. It's kind of this cyberpunk kind of setting and it's a little hard to describe. I think this is one of those anime that is in a lot of ways a visual experience, but also there's actually a really great substantive plot. Unlike some of these other anime that is like all visual and it's almost a little pretentious, I think this anime it delivers it all. It's great art, it's great story, great characters, it's entertaining, and man, it's just some of the most unique experiences I feel like I've had with this anime. It's been very refreshing. I really enjoyed this anime. Technolives is a story about various factions in this kind of underground city, and they all have this different view on technology because some factions believe in technologizing themselves, as in giving themselves their bodies these robotic arms and limbs and things like that. And then other factions are have different views, like they might be against it. And then there's even more revelations as these higher societies are joined into the equation with their own technologization. So it's very interesting. Number 31, Fire Force. This anime is hype. I love this anime. It was such a refreshing experience because I watched this last year, I think in like 2020, and it was just one of those shonen anime that made me feel the excitement that I felt years ago with some of my other favorite shonen anime. I love this anime. That's a fun, colorful story, great characters, really awesome fights. Like I love, all the fire and how it's animated, and the sound effects are awesome. They're popping, and yeah, this is just really just a very entertaining anime. And man, some of the most exciting moments. It gets me on my feet. I love this anime. All right, y'all, we're entering the top 30. At number 30 is Beastars. Now, this was an anime that I was not sure what to expect. I mean, like most of you, I'm sure I saw these furry looking animals on the cover and I thought, oh, great, this is just like a furry show or something. So then I watch it for some reason. I'm like, on a whim, it's on Netflix. It looks, I don't know, the trailer looks kind of interesting. I watched the first episode and I'm like, whoa, this is really good. Like, this is legit one of the best drama anime in all of anime. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty crazy. Because honestly, like, man, the characters are so realistic in Beastars, and I really like the nature of the show. It just feels so much more real than a lot of anime. Very dramatic, and then very just feels so real. And I like the Also, the added kind of dynamics of the carnivores and the herbivores that adds another interesting kind of societal layer to it. And I really enjoyed Beastars. And I've seen the first season, and I definitely plan on watching more once the next seasons come out. At number 29, Demon Slayer. Now, this is an anime that is hard for me to rank because, in some aspects, I absolutely love Demon Slayer. When I heard about Demon Slayer and all the high praises it was getting, I thought, no way does this thing live up to all this hype. And then when I finally got around to watching it, man, it lived up to the hype. Demon Slayer is just an awesome, awesome anime story about, a boy and his younger sister who gets turned into a demon, and he's just trying to save her and protect her and try to find a way to heal her. And it's following their journey, and the animation's beautiful, music is beautiful, and I just really liked what the show was going for, just kind of this journey between these siblings and kind of the aesthetic of the show and the how they were going around and kind of helping different people with their own encounters with demons. It almost reminded me of Mushishi, but like a battle shonen version, if that makes any sense to people. And I loved it. I thought it was awesome. The only thing I did not like was when these two characters get introduced about halfway through, named Zenitsu and Inosuke. I think these guys are horrible, horrible characters. I When they came on screen, I wanted to drop the show, and that's why I have such mixed feelings about this anime. But despite them, this anime was still great, and I still think the core of this anime, despite those two characters I really don't like, is amazing. And furthermore, in the later parts of the anime, I think there's also some more great moments that come. Episode 19 is really famous for that, for those moments. And yeah, I think it's a great anime. I don't like those other characters. I think they're just really annoying and they mess up the tone. But for the most part, Demon Slayer is a really great anime, and it's definitely one of my favorites. Number 28, Psychopass. Psychopass is a psychological thriller slash drama, and also kind of sci-fi. I really like Psychopass. This is my kind of anime. I love how it explores this future society where you have this conflict between kind of this utopian order and then this chaotic human freedom movement. And it's really interesting how the villain has like, a fair perspective to this issue, even though he's doing a lot of bad actions. And I think that makes it really interesting. I think all the characters are great in Psychopaths. I think it's just a great watch. It's pretty dark, pretty mature, and I like all that. I think it's great. You'll see higher on this list, I think there are just a select few anime of this kind of genre that do it even better. But nevertheless, Psychopaths is one of my favorite anime of all time. At number 27, A Silent Voice. So I said I'm not going to be including movies. However, for A Silent Voice, I made an exception because I've actually read the manga as well as watching the anime movie. So with the manga, it's a manga series. It has like 60 or so chapters. So I think it was long enough to include on this list and compare to the other anime here and the other manga here. So I love A Silent Voice. I think it's a very touching story, a very, deeply emotional and just a very, very interesting kind of story where it's about bullying and it's about redemption and kind of rekindling, the main two characters, a relationship that started out, in a very bad way. And I think it's amazing. I would even say the anime is definitely beautiful and how it has, the way the art gets translated into the movie form and with the music, it's amazing. But I would even say that in some ways the manga is even better because it better develops uh aspects of the story and aspects of certain characters that I feel like were kind of underdeveloped in the movie because it was had to be so limited on the time. So that's why I the anime and the manga both, definitely mean a lot to me though. So it ranks number 27. At number 26, Mushishi. I noticed I kind of name dropped this anime a couple times so far comparing it to other things. But Mushishi, it's this very unique and special anime about the journeys of Ginko as he goes around in this to different villages helping people because in this world there's these things called mushi which are like these other life forms and they're interesting because they're not really good or evil. They're just kind of these in between things that cause different things to happen, sometimes unfortunate things. And that's where the role of the Mushishi comes in with our main character Ginko as he goes around kind of helping people get cured. There's like all these random things that happen, like someone will be deaf or some weird weather thing will occur to a village and then it's a very calming story and yet there's also a lot of gravity I feel like to the story and that's why I enjoy it because it almost has a slice of life feel but with some drama, some serious drama in there and that's what I enjoy because this is just my personal taste. Sometimes I get a little bit bored of straight slice of life anime. But what I like about this one is it kind of has that aspect, but there's also a lot more going on to keep me really interested with the story, with just the world, with the drama, and I really enjoy that. At number 25, Soul Eater. This is plain and simple just one of my favorite anime. I love watching this anime. It is so cool, so entertaining, so classic. This is really when I think about like what's a classic anime, one of the ones that comes to mind is Soul Eater. I just feel like it does everything so well. The comedy, the action, the cool moments, the memorable characters, the cool art style, just everything about this anime is really awesome. At number 24, Bakuno. Now, this is a pretty crazy and pretty awesome anime. It's about all these different events with all these different characters and how they connect to the same story. And I just love this anime. I'll say the first episode is super confusing, but definitely try to get to just episode 2 because 2 on things start to make more sense. And then you realize the genius of it because like I was like, man, at first I was like, I mean, okay, it's just a bunch of crazy things going on, but then it's like, whoa, things start making more sense. And like, whoa, this is just like really fun and really interesting. And I'm learning more about these characters and I'm seeing how they all collide. And man, just what a ride Bakuno is. Number 23, Sword Art Online. This is an isekai anime about characters who become trapped in a virtual world video game. This is an anime I'm sure you've all heard about, and the reason it means so much to me is not only because of how much I enjoyed watching the anime, I think it's very entertaining, I think it's even relaxing at times. I really like the main two characters and their relationship, and I like the action and just kind of the adventure in this world, but there's also high stakes, so I enjoy all that. But the other thing I really appreciate about this anime and what means a lot to me is because it's the first seasonal anime I ever watched. Back in 2012, as I was about a year or two into watching some various anime, I finally kind of branched out by looking at this airing show called Sword Art Online. It looked kind of cool, it looked new, and I thought, you know what, let me check it out. And it was kind of a stepping stone that got me into watching not only all these awesome classic anime that are already aired and already completed, but brand new anime that are just coming out. And I've had a lot of fun with watching anime like that, and Sword Art Online is the one that started it, and to this day, it's one of my favorite anime. At number 22, Bakuman. Bakuman is a manga about a character who wants to make manga. I really enjoyed this one. This is actually talking about my some of my first experience with the anime. Bakuman means a lot with me because it's the first manga that I read without having seen any anime of that. There actually is an anime adaptation of Bakuman as well that I haven't seen, but I have read the manga and I've really enjoyed this one. I love the characters. I really love just learning more about the manga industry, and this one is just a very enjoyable read. I really like it, and it means a lot to me for being that first manga exclusive experience that I've ever had. Number 21, Erased. This is an anime that absolutely captures me and hits me right in the feels. I completely love this anime from episode 1 and the next episodes that follow. This is one of the greatest anime of all time, in my opinion. Now, I am a little disappointed in the second half. I think the quality drops a little bit, but it's still great overall. And man, those first 6 episodes, fantastic. If the whole anime was gave me the same feeling that the first 6 episodes gave me, this would be a 10 out of 10. I love Erased. I really was surprised by how attached I got to these characters because the central premise of Erased is that you have this boy who gets sent back in time to try to save one person initially, but then he really starts to try to save another person as well, to try to find a killer, and that on a premise level is very interesting to me. I really enjoyed that and the mystery and all that. But what really I think ultimately makes this a special anime is the how attached you get to the characters. You have the main character and his mom, and they're both great, and then you have this girl who the main character is trying to save, and you end up getting really attached to her. And I think that could be one of the issues with the second half, as she kind of becomes less relevant, that girl. But overall, just amazing anime. I love it. By the way, the opening and the ending, bangers. Number 20, Vagabond. This is the most brutal yet gorgeous manga I've ever read. I'll go out and say that in terms of just pure art style, I think this is the best artwork of any manga. Absolutely beautiful looking manga series about samurai, and it's just a very unique, interesting experience. I think all the characters are really interesting in this manga, and it always kept me invested. This is one of my favorite manga to read. Like, I can just sit down and read chapter after chapter, and I don't get tired of it. I love Vagabond. Number 19, Your Lie in April. This is a beautiful anime. It's about this main character who used to be a pianist in the past, but now through various life circumstances, he's no longer wanting to play the piano. Family issues and just personal kind of depression. And then he meets this other person who is also a musician, and together they kind of get. She kind of brings him back into music, and the story plays out from there. I think that the musical scenes are incredible, like some of the most amazing experiences in anime. Your Lie in April also hits very hard in the drama department. It almost makes me have mixed feelings about it just because of how sad it can be. But ultimately, I think there is a lot of meaning to this story, and I think it's not just for no reason. For some of the sad natures of this story, I think it really is beautiful. And at the end of it, I think I really appreciate just these characters and the events that happen, and it really makes you appreciate life and makes you appreciate just relationships and thinking about like how valuable life and relationships are and that they don't last forever. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but Your Lie in April, absolutely beautiful anime, amazing soundtrack. Also, just the visuals themselves are really beautiful, I think. And yeah, just really amazing characters, amazing story. One of my favorite anime. Number 18, Siren. This is a manga series that sadly does not have an anime adaptation, but I read the manga and I loved it. It's an action manga with superpowers and a lot of mysteries to be unraveled. I enjoyed this manga so much. I loved all the characters and really the elements that I don't want to spoil it for everyone, but there's really so much more to this story that you don't realize by reading the first few chapters. It just kind of gets more and more revealing parts about the story, and man, it gets pretty insane. This is one of my favorite manga. I really hope it gets an anime adaptation someday. I absolutely loved it. Number 17, Rainbow. This is a drama anime about Japanese boys in the 1950s in a reform school, but this school is so strict that it's really like a prison. This is a very dark and sometimes depressing anime, but I think there's also a very uplifting nature about this anime and about this story. I think it's amazing. I think the characters are fantastic. These are some of the best characters I've seen in anime. I love how the story really explores each of them and kind of gives them their own arcs. And so this is almost like a prison anime, and it's very, very dark, very intense. But what I like about this anime is it also shows what their life is outside of prison, and it shows that they still encounter many issues and have a lot of problems to deal with even when they're out of prison. And I think that it really has a realistic feel. All of the main characters have their own past of how they got in prison and what they deal with ultimately outside of prison. But I really love the characters and I love the bond between them. At number 16, The Promised Neverland. This is one of those manga series that is a defining series in all my years as an anime and manga fan. When I first read The Promised Neverland, I was in a Barnes and Nobles. I had heard about it before. This was around like 2018. Um, I heard good things, and then I saw it and I tried it out, and I knew nothing about it. I just knew that people said it was pretty good. And man, I was just blown away by it. I was taken into this story of thrills and mystery and mind games, and I absolutely loved it. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but there is also an anime adaptation, and I watched the anime. The anime is good too, and I've read the manga and I finished the manga. And although some of the later parts I don't like as much, I think overall it's a great series. And I actually think there's a lot of great arcs after the first arc. The first arc is probably the best one. That's what most people know Promised Neverland for. But there's some great things after that in the manga, and I really enjoy it. I love the mind games. I love the characters. The characters are fantastic. I love the main three, Emma, Norman, and Ray. I love the psychological aspect and the mystery aspect. This always has me on the edge of my seat, whether I'm reading it or watching it. And I love The Promised Neverland, one of my favorites of all time. At number 15, Hunter x Hunter. Now, specifically, the 2011 adaptation is what I watched for Hunter x Hunter, and I absolutely loved it. This is one of just those iconic anime, and I just love all the different arcs in Hunter x Hunter. It's every single one is so special and unique. And I think my favorite arc is the York New City arc. In my opinion, is like the peak of Hunter x Hunter for me. I really enjoy all the characters, the fights. I think they're really well thought out. Like the fights are very interesting and tactical, and I do enjoy it. I think there's a lot of variety in it, a variety which is interesting with like the focus. Like one arc will be focusing on this character, one arc will be focusing on that character, and I like how it shifts focus. And even up to the Chimera Ant arc, which is kind of one of the biggest arcs in this series. Now, I actually did have some mixed feelings on the Chimera Ant arc. I feel like the tone shifted very far from what Hunter x Hunter was. And at the time, I was just really hoping the story would go back to Kurapika and his storyline. But that being said, I think something amazing is achieved in the Chimera Ant arc. And Hunter x Hunter, of all the anime and manga on this list, is definitely one I feel like I really need to rewatch. It's been quite a few years, and I think it's going to be one of those stories that really stick with me, and I'm sure that stick with a lot of you. And I'm just really interested to see how I feel about certain parts, especially the Command arc, once I revisit it, because I think Togashi puts so much thought into his stories when he writes them, and I think he's a really exceptional writer, and I really appreciate all the details and nuances in the story and the characters. And overall, just a very fun, compelling, and at times heart-tugging anime. Number 14, Code Geass. This is an anime of epic proportions, whether we're talking about the long, expansive list of characters or the scope of the story, and just so much is accomplished in this anime. I really love Code Geass. It's kind of a futuristic anime about a world with being dominated by this country of Britannia, which is this kind of giant imperialistic country. And our main character, Lelouch, is a very fascinating character, and ultimately, his goal is to take down Britannia and to change the world. And I think that's just a really awesome concept for a story. Very compelling, very interesting. There's also some supernatural elements with the Giases. I think that's really interesting, like Lelouch. This is revealed in episode 1, so it's not too much of a spoiler. Lelouch has this power where he can kind of manipulate people to do what he wants, and it's really interesting to see how he uses that power, and also when he encounters other people, however rare they are, with their own powers. So that's interesting. I really like also the ideological discussion this anime has between characters like Lelouch and Suzaku. I think it's really interesting and just a great story. And I can't say enough about the characters. I think has one of the best casts because you got like Lelouch, Suzaku, Colin, Euphemia, some great antagonists in the mix, and some great side characters. I just really appreciate that about Code Geass. Also, some cool action with the mechas and all that, and some interesting strategies because Lelouch is like this super smart character, and that's always interesting to follow. I love Code Geass, one of my favorites. Also, amazing ending, one of the best endings in anime. At number 13, Bleach. Bleach is an iconic, classic anime that when I finally got around to watching it, I absolutely loved it. I loved the characters, I loved the action, I loved the world and the supernatural elements. And what I really loved was the Soul Society arc, one of the greatest storylines in all of anime. Now, I've only actually seen about 65 episodes, so pretty much everything up until the Soul Society ends. And with everything from the beginning to there, I absolutely loved it. One of my favorite anime of all time. I do plan on watching more. I'm a little hesitant as I hear some people say Bleach goes downhill, and I loved it so much that I almost worry about it going downhill. But that being said, over the years I've kind of like decided, okay, you know what? I'm just going to watch it because I loved it so much. And even if it goes downhill, as long as it's still good and maintains some of the things I loved about Bleach, I'm sure I'll still like it. The only other thing keeping me from watching it at this point in my life is how long it is. But that being said, I will eventually finish Bleach. And I heard there's a new anime adaptation for the final arc coming out of the manga, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, I love Bleach. I can't praise it enough when it comes to its just entertaining yet compelling narrative it has. It's so fun to watch. And man, that Soul Society arc, the way it just intertwines all these different characters in this epic saga, and you have Ichigo's journey as he fights stronger and stronger enemies to try to save his dearest friend Rukia. I think it's amazing. Number 12, Monster. This is an anime that is very unique and very special to me. It's a thriller and a drama anime, and it's pretty long, and I just find that really interesting following this journey of this main character Tenma and the moral issues he encounters and just kind of the crazy situation he finds himself in. He tries to do the right thing, and yet trouble follows him around. And I think it's a really interesting story. I love all the characters. I think Naoki Urasawa, the writer of the story, he just does an amazing job with how he writes characters. They're so human, so emotional, so realistic and nuanced. I absolutely love them. Also, the narrative for this in particular, for Monster, I love how he writes it. It's so interesting how it kind of tosses between different characters on the perspective. Like a couple episodes will be following this character, and then a couple episodes will follow another character as the story progresses. And then overall, it's just a very interesting journey. Monster is just a phenomenal anime. Johan's a great villain, and the story is just so interesting. It's something that's going to stick with me, definitely. Number 11, Kuriko's Basketball. Now, this was the first sports anime I ever watched, and it completely revolutionized how I viewed sports and anime. Because I'm like, before I watched this, I was like, why would I want to watch a sports anime? It just seemed like the lamest thing. I don't know why. I was already watching, like, you know, supernatural warriors fighting aliens. So, what's so wrong about a sports anime? But it just seemed weird to me. That being said, once I finally watched Kuriko's Basketball, I absolutely loved it. This is just such an entertaining, epic anime. I love basketball personally as well. I love playing it and watching it. And this anime is just so cool. I love how it sets up all these different antagonists, from the different teams, and they each have their own special skills. And our main characters have to try to take them all down. And, it really hypes it up with the Generation of Miracles and other teams as well that they face. And man, just some of the most exciting moments I've ever had watching anime is watching Kuriko's Basketball. I love the way it's animated too. The basketball scenes are so awesome. The music is fantastic as well. I love the characters. This is just one of my favorite anime of all time. We are now breaking into my top 10 favorite anime slash manga of all time. So at number 10, Full Metal Alchemist. So with this entry, I decided I'm going to include Full Metal Alchemist, both the original 2003 anime and Brotherhood, because they are both two anime based off the same story, and it felt weird to separate them. Now, Full Metal Alchemist is a phenomenal anime. I just love the emotions and the meaning behind this anime, and the main characters, Edward Elric and Alphonse, are fantastic leads. I love their journey. I love just seeing how much they go through and how they push and have to face all these hard obstacles, starting just as children. They made such an innocent decision for something, and yet it had some horrible ramifications. And, they lost parts of their bodies, and now they want to get their bodies back. And it's just a fantastic anime. I really do appreciate the original Full Metal Alchemist. I really like how it handles the early parts of the story, and even the filler is quite good. And then, of course, Brotherhood is amazing because it continues the story with the, original canon author's writing. And I really love just the whole narrative of Brotherhood. It's like one giant arc. It kind of builds up to its ending, and it's a very satisfying experience. And also, Brotherhood has some amazing animation, amazing fights in both of these anime, and just some awesome characters and a lot of mystery too. I really liked just all the mystery and the kind of subjects and themes that Full Metal Alchemist has me thinking about. I really enjoy this anime. Definitely a classic and one of my favorites of all time. At number 9, Fate Zero. When I reflect on this anime, one of the things that comes to mind is that this is a masterpiece. I think it excels at its story, at its characters, at its animation, and its music. It's just a complete package. Phase Zero has one of the most impressive casts to me because I just love how each character brings their own perspective to the story. And it's so fun and so interesting to watch all these characters competing for the Holy Grail. They each have their own objectives, they each have their own ideologies, and it's really interesting because you have the masters who have kind of their own goals, and then you also have the heroes from all these different times, and they're all very interesting and very cool to see how they interact. This is just a fantastic anime. I loved it so much. And by the way, the fight scenes, incredible. The way they're animated is just like it's amazing. I absolutely love Fate Zero. It's one of my favorite anime of all time. Absolutely incredible anime. At number 8, My Hero Academia. Now, this is an anime and a manga that means very much to me because My Hero Academia is the main thing that was responsible for getting me back into anime and back into manga. Sometime between 2014 and 2016, I kind of got out of anime. I don't know, I guess I lost interest. Some of the seasonal things I was watching just weren't that good to me. And I was mostly just focusing on, different things in life, different hobbies, different interests. But I ended up finding my way back with My Hero Academia. It started in 2016. Now, I admit, when I first watched My Hero, I thought, it's not that good. It's all right. But then over time, I tried it again, and some of my friends were talking about it. And then when I tried again, suddenly like a spark just lit, and suddenly I was like, whoa, I'm really enjoying this. And then season 2 came out in 2017, and that was like amazing. Season 2 is I think my favorite arcs in all of My Hero. I just love the Winter Festival tournament and then the Stain arc. Oh, both of those so fantastic. I love the characters of My Hero. I think it does a great job at just all the aspects of a great anime and a great shonen anime. I think that it's just so fun and entertaining. It's so easy to watch. I just love watching My Hero. And this also led me to catch up to the manga after season 2 ended, and I loved reading the manga. There's some fantastic arts in there as well, and some great new villains and characters introduced later on. And I really like My Hero Academia. Ultimately, I think it's one of my top 10 favorites of all time. Sometimes I might rate it lower or a little higher. It depends, but I think when I think about how much it means to me, I think that's what puts it in my top 10, along with how good it is at what it's doing, even though you will see soon that there are a few that do it even better, in my opinion, of course. By the way, I think Deku is nearly an underrated protagonist at this point. I know it's crazy to say. Everyone might think like, "Oh, Deku is just kind of generic." I think his the style of his character just being, a fundamentally good person and a hero who just wants to do good things. And he doesn't really have any negative slant to him. And I've kind of noticed that with a lot of other protagonists in anime, especially shonen anime lately, there's been kind of this switch to more to the anti-hero vibe, and I love that as well. But I do appreciate Deku just being a straightforward, honest, good boy. I think it's nice to have that sometimes in anime. At number 7, Bunny Girl Senpai. Now, this is one of those anime that surprised me the most, not only on how much I loved it, but also how much it's climbed on my favorites list over the last few years. Bunny Girl Senpai is my favorite romance anime, my favorite comedy anime, my favorite slice of life anime. Pretty much everything in its genre, it's my favorite. I love the characters. I really love the down to earth feel of the show and the way the characters just feel a lot more realistic to me than a lot of other anime in the same genre. And I really like just how relaxed it is and how tame it is. It's not really one of these anime where it's going to be super bizarre or super in your face with its humor or with its moments. It's more relaxed, kind of like real life. And I love Mai and Sakuta, the main romance. They're amazing. And I love that there's a lot of things that I love about it, and it doesn't have all the things I don't like about it. Like it doesn't have harems, doesn't have love triangles, doesn't have degenerate stuff. It just bypasses all these things that I tend to not like about certain types of anime. That's fine if you like them. That's your own taste. But for me personally, Bunny Girl Senpai delivered everything I wanted to have in a romance anime and a comedy anime. It's very funny for as well with the comedy. And I like how Sakura not only does he help Mai and ends up falling in love with her, he also along his journey is helping other people. And I like all the different characters he meets. It's a very pleasant anime to watch. And one of my top 10 favorites because there's really nothing else that replicates it for me personally. Number 6, Pluto. This is a sci fi thriller manga series, and I think it's an absolute masterpiece. Also written by Naoki Urasawa, who wrote Monster, Pluto is a series about a future society where you have humans and robots who coexist, but the society isn't perfect and the relationship between these two entities aren't perfect. The series is a thriller and a mystery about these robots who are being murdered one by one, different famous figures, and then you have the main character who's a detective who's trying to solve these cases. And I love this story. It's just so amazing, and there's just so much value to this story and its messages. And I think it's a really beautiful story. And I love all the characters. They're very realistic and very complex, each and every one of them. And I like how this story explores all their different sides. And I just, man, this is one of my favorite manga of all time. Possibly my favorite if we're talking about manga that don't have anime. I would say Pluto is my favorite manga in that sense. And it definitely earns its spot on my top 10. I really hope it gets an anime adaptation, by the way, because there's a rumored anime adaptation. I really hope it comes because I think a lot of people would really enjoy this series for those who mainly watch anime. Number 5, Samurai Champloo. Now, this is just an all time favorite of mine. Mugen, Fu, and Jin, the main three characters, I love all of them. I love the journey. I love the comedy in the show. Also, a lot of cool action. This is just such an entertaining, fun anime. It can also get pretty dark and pretty violent, so it's just an interesting mix of different emotions this anime will put you through. Now, this anime means so much to me. One of the big things is it was actually one of the first anime I ever saw. Back when I first kind of broke through into anime with my first anime, Naruto, then I watched Samurai Champloo because my brother recommended it to me. And at first, I was like a little weirded out by it because, I mean, keep in mind, this is my second anime I ever saw. And also, my brother decided to show me the baseball episode first, and that's a really wacky episode in particular that's not really representative of the rest of the anime for Samurai Champloo. But in the end, I actually ended up falling in love with it. The first episode is just amazing right off the bat. I love how It just has a story that kind of starts in the middle of something and then rewinds and then comes back to it. I love the style. I love kind of the influence of like rap and hip hop and the music and then the kind of the style, yet also mixed with that Japanese samurai era. It's a very cool anime, and I learned to really appreciate it over the years. In the past, I actually didn't have it in my top 10 a few years ago, but then when I really thought about it over the years, I'm like, and I had to rewatch this to remember, whoa, this is actually one of my favorite anime ever. So I try to rewatch anime because sometimes I tend to forget how special certain ones are if it's been so long since I've seen it. And Samurai Champloo is definitely one of my favorite of all time. The music's amazing, and everything about it is just so awesome. If there's any anime that I can go back and just rewatch any episode, if I just want to watch something for fun, Samurai Champloo might be the top on that list. Okay, now we're getting into the top four. Now, it's been very hard to rank different anime on my top 50 list. A lot of them rank very close to each other. But when it comes to my top four, particularly the four, three, and two spot, it's really hard for me to rank these, but I'm going to try my best. But overall, any of these four are like my favorite anime of all time. But starting at number four, Yu Yu Hakusho. Now, this is a perfect classic shonen supernatural anime. I love it. I'm going to go out and say that Yusuke might be my favorite protagonist of all time. It's a toss up between a few characters, but Yusuke is just such a well rounded character with so many things I like about him. He's hilarious, he's awesome. He also has a lot of depth to his character, and I just love every second of him on the screen. Yu Hakusho is just all around, everything is great. Has awesome fights, amazing characters. I love the main cast, and I love the villains. Some of the best villains in anime are in Yu Yu Hakusho. I love that it has a lot of meaning to it, and I love that there's a nice romance that develops. I think that's cool with Yusuke and Keiko. And yeah, I just love all the cast. Taguro and Sensui, two amazing villains. This show is really funny, and it really makes me laugh a lot, especially Yusuke. Also Kuwabara, he's really funny. And then Kurama and Hiei are really cool characters and very interesting because they're introduced as villains, and then they end up kind of joining the main cast. I thought that was really interesting. I love this anime so much, all the way through. It's a masterpiece, 10 out of 10. Yu Yu Hakusho, my fourth favorite anime of all time. At number three, Death Note. Death Note, I think, is the most amazing concept that I've ever experienced with anime. I think it's incredible. I love Death Note. It's also the best thriller anime, and it has some of the greatest characters and some of the greatest exploration of themes and characters in anime. This is the quintessential dark anime, the quintessential mind game anime. I absolutely love Death Note. Light and L are incredible characters, and Death Note is just on another level. I think that it's sometimes even taken for granted because it's one of those anime a lot of us start out with early on. But honestly, I think Death Note is a masterpiece if there is one, and I just love it. The mind games and just the way the characters are written, it's so awesome. It's just such an awesome show. I love like Light's character. It's so interesting to see his character arc and how he kind of becomes the villain of the show. It's kind of rare that the protagonist is the villain. I thought that was really interesting. I like how, how it's written with all the things, all of his plans he does. Very smart, very intelligent, and I think that's really cool that an anime does this because sometimes, some anime they'll say, "Oh, this character is smart," but then people are like, "Well, what are the feats? Are they actually smart?" But with Light, I think the show does an excellent job showing all these different plans right down to the little details. I remember one thing in particular, like when he was hiding the Death Note early in the series, went through this intricate plan of how it was like going to be under his desk, and if someone other than him tries to open it in any way, then there's a thing that'll like blow up the Death Note and burn it, so there's no evidence of it. So Light is just this intelligent yet sociopathic character, and it's so fascinating, and I really enjoy that and seeing him and Light's battle of wits. And also, I like the entire anime of Death Note. I know some people are just like, oh, it's good for the first half until a certain character dies, but I think it's all amazing, including the second half. Really phenomenal to the end. A masterpiece of an anime. I love Death Note. Also, amazing music, iconic music. You all know all that music. It's an amazing story. And another thing, I think the voice acting is incredible for the English dub. I think they knocked it out of the park. Whoever played Light, my gosh, he does an amazing job. Amazing dub and amazing anime. The themes of justice and the morality behind who has power to kill and who has power to kind of enforce their will on others. I think it's really interesting. Death Note is top three, number three favorite of all time. All right, and now we are down to number two. Now, this was a toss up, like I said, between two, three, and four, where to rank, but I ended up putting number two, One Piece, because when I was looking at it, One Piece is like my favorite anime slash manga of all time, right after one more anime that's about to come. But One Piece is this amazing adventure anime. The characters are just iconic. I love the Straw Hats, and it's so long, and there's so many amazing arcs, and it's funny, but it also has a lot of heart. One Piece has made me cry so many times, and Zoro is one of my favorite characters, by the way, in One Piece. I think he's my favorite character in One Piece and one of my favorite of all time. But I love all the Straw Hats: Luffy, Sanji, Nami. All of them are great. A lot of other great characters as well. Just One Piece is such a gigantic story with really interesting lore and all these different places they visit. And yeah, so many interesting characters like the admirals and the warlords, the Yonkos, so many different things. It's a very interesting story that keeps you invested, but also packs a lot of heart and a lot of fun. And I absolutely love it. It's ultimately the anime is great, and then at some point I would say I actually prefer the manga because if you've seen the anime, at some point it kind of starts to go downhill with the adaptation. But the manga is amazing all the way through. So this is just one of those epics that will always stick with me, and it's really hard to top, except for number one. My number one favorite anime of all time is Naruto. Naruto is the most important, most influential anime and slash manga of all time for me. It's the most special anime to me. It's the most unique. It's the most impactful. I love everything about Naruto, particularly the part one story. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's the greatest thing I've ever experienced. When you look at these arcs, the tuning exams, Land of the Waves, the Sasuke retrieval, the search for Tsunade, so many just amazing storylines. Naruto is one of my favorite characters, and this is my first anime I've ever seen. When I knew what anime was, this was the first one, and to this day, I've gone back and forth. There have been a couple that have come close, like these some of these three, two, three, and four that I mentioned, but ultimately Naruto's my favorite. I think the characters are just fantastic. There's nothing quite like Naruto, and I think there's so many aspects of it that are deserving of praise, and I wish it got more, you know, praise in the community for things like its cast of characters. If we can just start with that, I mean, you look at all these amazing characters, you know, Rock Lee, Neji, Gara, just down to the side characters, Jiraiya, Tsunade, so many amazing, detailed, well-written characters, and I love that. And then when you look at the main characters, I love Naruto and Sasuke. I love their bond. It's such a interesting dynamic, a parallel yet an antithesis of these two characters who are similar and yet so different, and they they take two different paths ultimately, and it's just such a compelling narrative to me. And Kakashi is a great character, and Sakura too. She can be annoying sometimes, but I think she has a nice place in the story. And yeah, this is my favorite. I love the fights. The fights are amazing. Naruto has the best fights in anime. Only thing that comes close is Phase Zero. But Naruto, I mean, do you look at fights like Naruto versus Sasuke, Rock Lee versus Gaara, Naruto versus Pain, Kakashi versus Obito? It's just like the list goes on. I could name you like 30 more fights that are amazing. I love Naruto, the tactics, the jutsus, the abilities. It's just so special. Something starting with just like the Sharingan. Like when I watched that, I'm like, whoa, that is so cool and so unique. I've never seen anything like it. I just think Naruto is a masterpiece. And in Shippuden as well, I still love Naruto. I do think there are certain points where it kind of, changes. And maybe in some ways there are things I don't like as much. Certain characters aren't as prevalent in part two slash Shippuden than they were in part one. But I still loved it. And actually, I liked, over the years, I've learned to appreciate Shippuden for what it is because it progressed the story into something else. Even though part one is my favorite, Shippuden's also amazing. I love the Akatsuki, the villain group. I really love how it matures Naruto and brings him to a new place. And also Sasuke, it continues to develop his character. And Naruto and Sasuke kind of have these two separate journeys, and it brings them back together. And I just think the emotions in Naruto, it hits me more than anything else. I said I cried a lot in One Piece. I absolutely have, but I think the thing I've cried the most in is Naruto. More than any drama anime, more than Your Lie in April, more than Clannad, more than One Piece, which is, very well known for making people cry. Naruto just tugs at the heartstrings. So many backstories, so many moments that are just powerful. I mean, with Naruto, you just look at the first few episodes already. It's like, man, it's hitting you hard. You see this boy who's just lonely and emotionally weak, He never had that love. And I think that's Naruto's really special in a lot of ways like that. And people don't really recognize it, I feel like. We kind of so I think we take Naruto for granted. I think it's an amazing story and it got a lot of us into anime, and I'm never going to take it for granted. It's when I think what's my favorite anime, nothing tops Naruto. Nothing ever has. Some things have come close. I think you could argue some things are more consistent, but as far as the peaks, the highs, nothing beats Naruto in my book, and that's why it's my favorite of all time. It's absolutely amazing. I could go on and on. It's my favorite anime. So let's go on a little more. One thing I appreciate about Naruto is just his mentality and his presence in the story. I like that when he encounters an antagonist, he really tries to understand them and he really tries to see to talk with them. And a lot of people when Naruto does that, when he talks with the villain, when he converses and try to persuade them maybe into seeing it differently, to saying they're wrong. People call this talk no jutsu, and people say that as a criticism. Personally, I think this is a fantastic storytelling because it's just, it's not just him going around imposing his force. He actually cares about what he's doing. He's not just going around beating people up like some of these other anime. I mean, that's all fun and stuff, but in real life, I think that's a really valuable thing to actually talk with people that you disagree with and people that you think are wrong. You won't actually know if they're wrong if you just, go defeat them. That just makes you stronger. That doesn't make you correct. What I like about Naruto is he aims to be stronger, but he also aims to know the truth and to be correct, and he goes the extra mile for everyone, and I think that's awesome. And yeah, the utmost thing would be Sasuke, and I know, it can be a little upsetting sometimes, with how he keeps going after Sasuke as Sasuke goes into his villainy. But I think that's something really unique about Naruto. And also just the fact that the story took one of its main protagonists a third away into the series and had him, leave the main cast and become like a villain. I thought that was really interesting with Sasuke's journey. So many amazing characters I could go on. Rock Lee, by the way, like one of my top five favorite characters of all time, possibly my favorite. I thought he was incredible. I absolutely love him. That's one of the things I really love about part one. Such an inspiring character. So many inspiring characters. And this was also the first time I caught up to a manga. I caught up around the 550 to 600 range is where I started catching up in the manga, and yeah, I'd read it weekly up until its end at chapter 700, and those were some of the greatest manga experiences I've ever had. I would say it's probably the greatest. I've never anticipated something or has been as excited every week for something than I was for Naruto. Having a new chapter every week was a joy, and watching new episodes was a joy. Watching it for the first time was just amazing. Um, just so many amazing story arcs. Man, the Pain Invasion arc, if we're looking at Shippuden, Pain Invasion arc is amazing. Pain is probably my favorite villain in the series, although Orochimaru comes close, and there's a lot of other great villains like Zabuza. Um, I really enjoyed that. I like Sasuke's storyline in part two with like the Itachi pursuit arc. That was really great. Just seeing him reach his goal, even though it was a bitter end, and it's like, does that make you happy now? And then he finds out the truth, and I don't know, it's just really interesting. This is a story about pain, a story about loss, a story about hatred and revenge, and I love all the history with the ninja village. and how it intertwines all these different characters and their backstories. I just think it's amazing. So those are all my favorites. Thank you for listening. I love anime, and I really wanted to get my favorites list out of there and talk about them. It's been a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed.